Howdy folks, Widget Walls from NeatCoffee.com here. Back again for another Wayhomer review. Here's how it works with uninitiated. I have just left the cinema. It's back that way, where I've seen a film that you're just showing them a Yukon. That's not, if we were getting paid by Yukon, that would be awesome. I've just seen a film, and I'm going to tell you about it on my way home, because that just saves time. Hi. And today we are here to talk about Snow White and the Huntsman. Now, the thing about Snow White and the Huntsman, synopsis first. Synopsis is, of course, you have the good king with the princess, who is fair and innocent and pure and whatnot. And the king loses his wife. Wicked queen shows up. And, I mean, you know the story. Basically, takes over everything, and part of her deal is that she is the fairest of them all. That's extremely important to her. Not just because she is vain and narcissistic, but because that is the source of her power. And in order to shore up her power, she needs to eat the heart of Snow White. Kind of like a Dothraki thing, but totally different. So, hijinks and conflict ensue, as obviously the queen really wants to eat Snow White's heart. Snow White, who kind of needs that heart, does not want to have her heart eaten, so therefore they're at odds with one another. And the huntsman comes in because the queen sends the huntsman into the dark forest to try to find Snow White, and also there are dwarfs. There's a synopsis. That's pretty much all you need. Now, what's interesting about Snow White and the Huntsman is, of course, that in the time-honored tradition of Deep Impact and Armageddon and Dante's Peak and Volcano, you had Mirror Mirror and Snow White and the Huntsman. And initially, when these two projects were announced, Mirror Mirror had me incredibly excited, because I thought, Tarsem is doing Snow White. How badass is that? And all of that chick from Twilight's in another Snow White film. But then the trailers came out, and I didn't even see or review Mirror Mirror because it just made me weep inside. Because the trailer looked so god-awful that I don't think I was emotionally up to the task of seeing that film. And then Snow White and the Huntsman actually looked pretty cool. Because you've got, you know, Charlize Theron looking like a badass. And you've got Chris Hemsworth, Thor, swinging an axe. And then they didn't even have the dwarves of the trailer at that point. And then, oh, you had Kristen Stewart, who is basically being Kristen Stewart. But that was okay. So I was like, wow, who knew? If you told me a year ago when those trailers came out, this is what I said, that I would have been not interested in a Tarsem film and interested in a Kristen Stewart film instead, I would have told you you were insane. So, finally, this Snow White film has come out. And here's the thing. There are some very good things about this film. Okay? It's interesting how they've played around with the story. Okay? You've got some, the number one thing is the cast. Chris Hemsworth has at least one decent scene in there. He's great when you give him something to work with. And now he's great with kicking butt and swinging axes and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong. And doing it with long hair, right? He's good at that. He's proven that. But he actually can act, too. And so when you give him some actual lines to say with some depth, he can work it. So, and he does. You also have stuff like the dwarves, which the effects on that look great. And they're all pretty good, especially Bob Hoskins, who completely sells the whole sage, you know, wisdom elder thing, and kind of softens the thing when you just go, wow, who wrote the Snow White Princess Mononoke cross fan fiction section? That's in the trailer. Anyway, so that kind of makes that a little bit smoother. So you have that going for you as well. And the effects and stuff are nice. But I tell you what, the number one thing that saves this film, and we'll talk about what it saved from in a moment, is Charlize Theron, who is just a badass witch. I mean, just scary. Now, I know she's played all kind of different roles and whatever else, but I remember her from, 48 Hours in the Valley, whatever, 2 Days in the Valley, wherever she basically showed up first, right? It felt from like 19, where she first showed up. No, nothing can prepare you for the fun of seeing her just absolutely eat this part up. Just great. So she is having a blast. And I will say this, she could have put the pedal all the way to the floor and just gnawed scenery the entire time. She could have done that. She could have been just gnawing on it, shaking it like a terrier. But instead, she only completely blew it out a few times. She chose her pacing well, so to speak. So she's great. She's the number one reason to see the film on top of everything else, okay? So, I say she saved it, okay? Now, what did she save it from? Well, there's certain things that don't make sense, which I can't really go into. There's some things at the end where you just go, what? There's certain things that aren't explained that you feel like need some sort of resolution. Which is sort of frustrating because you have these moments of really well-written stuff that, so that when something obviously needed some more work, you just go, okay, which one of you in the credits wrote the good bits? I mean, you know what I mean? It's something like that. So you've got that. You've got, for the most part, the number one thing that kind of just kept it hovering around around 3 stars for most of the film. It just feels flat. You've got the whole storybook thing they were going for with the narration at the beginning and stuff, and it did feel like nothing was happening. Charlize Theron shows up, all of a sudden life gets breathed into the film, and whenever she's not around, it's just like there's just not enough oomph there. Now you get bits of oomph, okay? It's not oomphless, all right? You've got Bob Hoskins, who's constantly there, and despite not going blah, he's just doing the sage thing. Awesome. You got those moments with Chris Hemsworth. You've got little moments, little blips of actual delightful bits. But for the most part, it just feels flat. Now, part of that stems from the fact that they really needed an editor who could trim about 15 to 20 minutes off of this thing. I swear, there was about every scene, there was probably about 2 superfluous minutes of walking, or, I mean, I understand the forest that you found to shoot this stuff in was awesome, or I don't know if it's a studio, who knows these days. But, like, that's really great, and I appreciate the fact that you want to show off your art design. But for God's sake, can we just please move? And especially some editor who will simply go, everyone is going to realize that this is the Lord of the Rings shot, right? Which is quickly becoming the single most overused shot since the Right Stuff walk, okay? You know what I'm talking about, aka the Armageddon walk, alright? Just because you're making a film with dwarves in it does not mean you have to do the overhead aerial Lord of the Rings shot, okay? Because we all come right out of the movie and think back to, no offense, but a better fantasy movie that we've seen in recent memory. So, things like that, where it just needed a little bit of tweaking for the running time, 2 hours and 7 minutes. So you could have easily lost about 20 minutes and you would have been fine, okay? But needed to be trimmed and needed to be tightened. And so that, you didn't have blips of awesome stuff. You had kind of like an overarching, thing, not even an arch, that's even the wrong word. Just a steady flow of awesome. Because there was awesome to be had. But alas, there were some things going on which just made me go, wow. So, my rating is 2.5 out of 5, okay? Right down the middle. It's not good. It's not bad. It gave me about what I expected, okay? It was a decent flick. So it had reservations that knocked it off of the 3-cup perch that it was poised on for most of its running time. Now, should you see it? I think eventually you should see it. Just because Charlize Theron is so great. There's other bits that are great, like I said, but she is the number one thing that stands out about the film. And, should you see it on the big screen? Not really. I know we're all trying to pinch pennies these days, so I don't even go tell you to see Avengers for the 6th time. I'm just saying, stay at home and watch something that, we've all got DVDs on our shelves we haven't watched yet, so you might do that, and then wait and Netflix it when it comes out, and then you'll probably be fine. But no, nothing terribly big screen necessary about the film. So there you go. Not bad. Anyway, thanks to everyone for watching these things. I appreciate everyone who watches. I also appreciate those of you who share with others. It's important not to be selfish about things that you like. So we urge you, if you do enjoy Wayhomers, share them. I don't care where you share them. There's too many things to list. Facebook and Twitter and Pinterest and I don't know where all the hell everybody's sharing things these days. Graffitied on a wall. No, really graffiti on a wall, because it's probably illegal. But if it's your wall, if it's your wall and you own it, okay, then yes, graffiti Wayhomers on the wall. And share it that way. There's some old school social media for you. But anyway, yes, share this with folks. The buttons, if you go to needcoffee.com, are right there on the post, and that helps out more than you know. But spreading the word is greatly appreciated. So, until next time on the Wayhomer Reviews, I shall simply say bye. Okay, so back on that Lord of the Rings shot, and I think everyone knows what I'm talking about, I just want to point out, Thespy and I, watching the show together, we instantly knew what it was. Let's lean into each other, Lord of the Rings. And she had the great idea, and I think someone should do this when it comes out on Blu-ray. It says, splice it together so it looks like they're actually passing each other. The party from Fellowship of the Ring, from Lord of the Rings, and from Snow White and the Huntsman. They just pass you. In fact, find all the movies that have the Lord of the Rings shot of them walking over some kind of hilly area seen from above, and splice it all together so it looks like a huge parade. That's what I would say. Somebody who's talented and bored, get on that, would you? I appreciate it.